Hello everyone, my name is Marcy Wilder. I'm the web editor for the University Press, and today I am joined by...
I'm Hannah Schimko. I am the station manager of FAU Owl Radio, and happy to be here.
I'm Zachary, Weinberger, staff writer for the University Press. I'm also happy to be here as well.
And welcome to Three Jews in a Room Discuss a Musical. Well, today we're going to be talking about the musical Falsettos, specifically the 2016 revival version. We're going to talk about we're going to try and talk about Taylor Swift and what's happening with her, and then we're going to talk about the new WandaVision on today's entertainment podcast. But I'll start off for Falsettos. So Falsettos is a musical that started out as two one-act musicals themselves. And the first one was written in I think it was around the 70s, and then after the AIDS endemic started, then the two writers went back and wrote the second half. And then in the 90s, they put it on Broadway as just one musical called Falsettos. And in 2016, it was revived by it was directed by one of the original writers, so there are slight differences between the original Broadway cast and the new Broadway cast, but today we'll be discussing the revival Broadway cast. So, Hannah, I know you listened to it. What were your thoughts?
Okay, so I have not listened to anything in the theater world for who knows how long. I used to be, high school theater. I did some, local town theater and everything. I've seen a lot of Broadway musicals, as I was telling Marcy yesterday. And honestly, I haven't heard of it until Marcy brought it up, and I really loved it. I thought it went so deep, and I felt very connected to it because it did have those very deep themes of family and Judaism and, just your identity as a Jewish individual. So I really loved it. I thought the music was awesome. The acting was phenomenal. And the writing was also phenomenal.
Zach, were you able to listen to a small snippet of it? Or have you just heard me try to get you to listen to it for the past 6 months now?
Yeah, Marcy has tried to get me to listen to it. And it could either be, I could say that I'm busy, but maybe because I'm late to the latter. But I listened to a snippet of it just to kind of please Marcy a little bit. And from what I've heard, it does sound great. Low key, I am a musical fan. Every time me and my family go up to New York for to catch a show there, whether it be we saw Mormon, Spam a lot. When I was a kid, I saw the Spider-Man Broadway musical with everything. But yeah, so and of course movies and television shows and stuff like that. So, but obviously being Jewish myself, like we all are here, it really does connect with me from the little snippets that I've heard. And pretty much this past 6 months, I'm like, maybe I want to hear. That's why I'm excited to be here, so I can hear you guys talk about it. So I could finally just make that final breakthrough, so I can finally hear it. So, from what I heard, it's pretty excellent.
Yeah. Actually, Andrew Reynolds, who originated the role of Elder Price in Book of Mormon, he plays Wizard in this. So this was his return to Broadway after being on Girls for a while. I even read that he was excited to play this role because he was usually playing the gay best friend or the sidekick and in this one he got to play a fully realized gay man who goes through quite the arc that has a disappointing ending for him, but it's interesting to see also with the fact that he never had to come out. He was just always gay. And he's always played gay characters, so this was a fully realized gay character that was an adult for him to play, which I found was interesting when I was reading about him talking about it. Well, for the major themes, me and Hannah took notes, but the major themes in this was Judaism, because all the characters except for 3 of them are Jewish. There's also the aspect of AIDS that really overtakes the second half of Act 2, and then masculinity and identity. So, Hannah, do you want to start with Judaism?
Yeah. Let's kind of go through the notes that I was taking while I was watching it. I was watching it like on a daily motion, like recording of the show itself, because I'm more of a visual person when it comes to musicals rather than just, listening to the official Spotify album of the cast. Okay, so I mean, just off the bat, like the significance of a bar mitzvah, that kind of goes into like the masculinity and identity thing, but the significance of, having a bar mitzvah as a young man, and how it also, the bar mitzvah kind of wiggled its way into what's the son's name again? I'm Jason. Literally losing it. Jason, yeah. Jason and his father's relationship throughout the show itself. Is it like, as well as Jason is becoming a man, his father is as well, and I just found that kind of interesting while going through it, especially in the second act. I don't know if you want to comment on that kind of part.
So, we're going to spoil it here, but basically the second act, Whizzer gets AIDS. They never say AIDS because at the time it was written because the second act takes place in 1981, so the AIDS endemic just started. It hadn't been named yet, so they call it the virus with no name and the bad thing that is happening. I think that the name of the song in which Dr. Charlotte talks about what's happening, because she's a doctor, she says something bad is happening and we don't know what it is. So they never actually say the word AIDS, but if you're in the audience, you know it's AIDS. So the bar mitzvah, because the first song that gets into the plot for the second act is called Year of the Child, because all of the adults are surrounding Jason trying to get him ready for his bar mitzvah. And that's actually where my favorite characters, the lesbians, come in, because one of them's a caterer. But he ends up having his bar mitzvah in the hospital with Whizzer, because he didn't want to leave Whizzer out of it. And there's even a line that was added in the revival, right after he does the Hebrew that signifies to his bar mitzvah. He says Abba, which is Hebrew for father, and he directs that as Whizzer, because even though Marvin's his biological father, Mendel is his stepfather, Whizzer is also his father, due to being his father's boyfriend. And I thought that was a nice inclusion, because there's a really good relationship that builds between Jason and Whizzer throughout the entire musical. And especially how, even in the beginning, that Jason wants to hear, does Whizzer want me to go see a psychiatrist? He doesn't care what his parents say. He wants to hear if Whizzer wants him to go see a psychiatrist, which leads to a small comedic moment in which both Trina and Marvin force Whizzer to say yes, go see a psychiatrist, even though Whizzer originally is going to say no.
Another thing that I wrote down was L'Adore Vador, or From Generation to Generation, which you saw more in the first act when Marvin was going through therapy, and you saw that trauma being passed down to Jason, like in real time, you could see Jason in the background while his father's getting therapy.
Yeah,
and that whole...
That's part 3 of the 3-part mini opera of therapy.
It's amazing. I really enjoyed that. I just thought it was... I read an article that kind of pointed out that piece, and I just thought it was very... It's very subtle, but it's a very big part of Jewish tradition, is that whole generation to generation. But the thing is, that also crosses the line to generational trauma and generational... and issues being passed down to your children. And then you highlighted the song My Father's a Homo. If you want to elaborate on that.
The best song titles of all time. But My Father's a Homo takes place right after Marvin at the Psychiatrist, a 3-part mini opera. Another amazing song title. In which Jason talks about how he doesn't know how to feel that his father is gay, and what if he becomes gay? What if, and it's not more about what if he becomes gay? It's because Marvin being gay has caused him so many issues throughout his life. So he doesn't want to have all those issues. And one of the funniest lines is that my father said I could grow up to be president. That idea is not so wild. And, well, when the second act was originally being written, it was during the Reagan era, which leads to a funny thing in which Andrew Reynolds gets to punch a pop-up balloon of Nancy Reagan in the face. Which is very nice because the Reagans really ignored what was happening in the gay community. So, and since they revived it in 2016, that the revival went on right when Trump was being elected president. So it's still a funny wink to the audience that like that idea is not so wild that Jason could be president one day. But he's more worried about gaining all of his father's problems, and that's one of the things that he talks to Mendel about in the song Jason's Therapy, which is connected to Please Come to Our House, another funny song. And I think we can get into the argument of, is Mendel a good psychiatrist? But the one thing he does get right is that in the therapy, while he's talking to Jason, he treats Jason like a child, because the entire musical, Marvin is treating him like an adult, and Trina is trying to treat him like an adult because they have a very unstable family relationship. But then Mendel comes in, which works into how Mendel becomes a stepfather later. But he says, hey, if you feel all right for 10 minutes, you can feel all right for 20 minutes. Your parents' problems are not your problems, and you don't have to worry about it. Which I think is very important. And just the crazy idea of, like, let's treat the child like a child. Which I think comes to, like, the recollection at the end of Act 1 with the song Father to Son, in which Marvin acknowledges that Jason is a child. And he says, you will be a man, but you're not a man yet, and that's okay. I guess we can get into the whole being a man part.
I'm gonna touch on the last bullet before we do that, but yeah, that's a good segue in. I just want to touch kind of on the part, the agnostic atheist part that you kind of pointed out. This is gonna be the last bullet point for the Judaism part. So a lot of Judaism itself is the questioning of God, and there's a whole song about it in the second act, which I really thought connected a lot with me, even though the themes that were happening during it, I'm not crying over a hospital bed, but they were questioning, is God real? And if he was, can he do something, or can they do something, And that's, a lot of what's written in, the Talmud and what's discussed between rabbis in, a lot today is God real? Is there an actual higher being? And I just thought that was just a very interesting point, and I'm very happy that it did touch on that in the...
Was it another miracle of Judaism where Jason is talking to God?
It's when they are all over the bed, and yes. Yeah, I just thought that was just such a good point, because that's something that's not very talked about within Judaism, and it's not very known by the public, that's a very huge part of what makes us who we are, and why, and how it's very essential in Judaism to question the existence of a higher being and not just take it, because a lot of, Judaism is mostly just value, and how we walk about the earth with ourselves, and, tikkun olam, repair the world, and question things. I just thought that was a nice little point. But yeah, we could go into the masculinity and identity portion.
So, Zach, to let you know, or I guess we could start, because I feel like chess is a very good metaphor, where they use, in the musical, they use chess as the idea of becoming a man, is being able to win at chess. And that is what causes, well, it's not exactly what causes Marvin and Wizard to break up in the first act, but the song is called The Chess Game, in which they're playing chess together, and Marvin gets frustrated because Wizard wins. Because Marvin, in his being raised heteronormatively, has to see himself as the winner, has to see himself as the king and be the leader, which comes into a nice little reverse later, in which they start addressing Whizzer as the king in chess. And there's a joke in the song I'm breaking down that China makes how Marvin's a queen, and there was a nice little metaphor about how if Marvin's the queen, then Whizzer's the king. They have to be together, and they put the king chess. Jason puts the king chess piece on Whizzer's grave at the end of the musical, which is a power. Whizzer dies, surprise. Which is a powerful moment. But chess is used throughout the musical, and like Jason plays chess alone, but then by the end of the musical, he's playing chess with Whizzer. And it's charting their relationships. And I think even in the song of March of the Falsettos, they kind of are dressed as like pawns. That might be a very big reach, but they are kind of dressed that way and are treated as not men yet until the end of the musical, where they become men through the course of the journey they experience.
Yeah, okay, that kind of clears it up for me, because I was like writing comments on our doc if you saw. What else? We already kind of talked about the father-son relationships going through it, and how Jason connects with every male figure in this show, and how they all kind of teach him a different part about his identity, which I thought was really beautiful. And then I also highlighted, like, what would they do for love? What are the sacrifices that they are going to give to help Jason understand himself and his identity? And then I said, like, this is not a hero's journey. This is reality. Maturity is needed to raise a child and as well be a better partner for Whizzer. I was obviously pointed that at Marvin, but I just felt that throughout the entire show itself.
Marvin has an amazing character arc. And it's super well written. He starts out as an absolutely appalling human being, but by the end of the musical, he is a fulfilling partner for Whizzer, which is why it really sucks. And I guess that's there to hammer home how terrible AIDS was, but that he loses Whizzer, when being with Whizzer made him a better person and a better father for Jason. And he even comments in the song "What Would I Do" is that you were the only one my son would allow, and Jason's opinion is clearly highly valued by Marvin. And in the song "Before You're the Child," I think it's called like "Welcome Back to Falsetto Land" or something, and he says, "All I want to be is my son who's 12 and a half," because in his head that his son is more mature than he is, though by the end of the musical he becomes that father figure. And it's even remarked on in Jason's bar mitzvah, Jason almost looks like Marvin now. Or is it a comment that Marvin has become a man himself while watching his son become one? Also, Marvin rocks the "I was raised straight" hoodie that was used in if you look at photos of Marvin from both musicals, they're both always wearing this like terrible gray hoodie. And people call it the "I was raised straight and I don't know how to be a gay man" hoodie. Yeah, heteronormativity. Hooray!
We love that. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 point on the AIDS theme, and then I have just one question afterwards. All right, so for AIDS, why a play like this over something like Rent?
It has a plot.
Okay, so I have a question now. I actually have a question now. Because from hearing this conversation, Rent and this one I'm hearing right now, it seems like at the backdrop or really at the forefront that AIDS is a huge topic there. That was going to be my question, was just like, how does that compare to Rent? You're saying it doesn't have a plot. I want to hear an elaboration on that. So
I have seen Rent, or seen/listened to Rent 3 times. I have no idea what happens. I know Angel dies, there's lesbians, and that's all I know. That's all I know. And maybe I heard, because there was a Rent touring show that came through the Dr. Phillips Center in Orlando. We watched it, and it was my first time ever seeing Rent. I had no idea what was happening. And I heard later from people that actually really love Rent that was a terrible performance, because they were clearly playing to the audience. Because you know these characters by now. We can have fun with it. But then there was me sitting there going, what is happening? But I liked that Yeah, it doesn't make sense it doesn't make sense when you put in the context that the Falsettos, the first half was written before AIDS happened, but I feel like it takes we set up a family, and that makes it so tragic when AIDS does happen, and it takes away a vital part of their tight-knit family, which is Whizzer.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is, because I think in Rent, if I'm right, AIDS has already happened by the time Rent is, the plot of Rent starts. There's already, people already have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you don't get to, in Rent, we don't get to see we see the aftermath of how it's affected people. But in Falsettos, we're watching it happen in real time, which is, if you might have read this, Hannah, but like a lot of people called the show is like, you will walk in laughing and you'll walk out crying. And there was even questions to the cast, it's like, how are you still able to perform when you hear the audience openly weeping throughout the entirety of the second act? And I read experiences of people in movie theaters when they're sitting there and there's like a 50-year-old like gay couple in front of them that like start crying because they knew those people that died, and nothing could have happened, which is why I think it sucks. This musical lost the Hello Dolly for Best Revival. That is a crime. It is an absolute crime, and this isn't a show that's going to be revived. Like Rent is going to keep getting revived until the sun blows up, but this show is not going to be as revived as often, and I think it's just as or more important than Rent, because we get to watch how terrible it was happen in real time, instead of just the aftermath, and of course with the great character arcs. And they have a lesbian doctor. Does Rent have a lesbian doctor? No, they don't.
What did it lose to, by the way?
Well, the revival, it was nominated for best revival of a musical. It lost to Hello Dolly. Though I'm gonna look it up, but the original musical won a couple of Tonys. It won Best Book of a Musical and Best Original Score at the Tony Awards.
So why the staying power then of Rent compared to a musical like this one? What's the difference? Why is it so much more popular?
I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, maybe it's like you said, like maybe
I don't know.
Well, maybe it's like you guys said. I mean, when Marcy was pointing out that maybe that the Rent is, like you said, it's like it's either during or the aftermath of the whole AIDS sort of like craze at the time. So maybe that kind of connected with people a little bit more, like you were saying about the gay couple that was just crying out of the theater and stuff like that. So maybe it just connected a little bit more. And maybe I don't know.
Didn't the writer of Rent die right after it was written? Or is that another show? I'll look it up, but I swear I heard that. Hannah, what were you gonna say?
Oh my god, what was I gonna say? Oh, okay. Oh, I know why. So, I think it's just because the nicheness of Judaism. I really honestly think that's why. Because, I mean, like, all of these value, like, every is very, very...
Oh, like, he did die public, the same year that Rent came out.
Sorry. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So, like, the themes of AIDS and masculinity, I mean, that's all in Rent. But, like, the nicheness of Judaism in a show,
Also, I think it's the fact that there's a child character.
Yeah. Yeah, that too.
And
I thought that was just very... I just thought that was very interesting also, because you never really get that perspective of, like, of the AIDS epidemic, like, affecting families, like, with children and everything. I don't know. It was a very moving musical, but I have one more question for you, Marcy.
Okay.
Why this 2016 version over, like, the 1992 version?
One answer, maybe I've never listened to the 1992 version, so that might be it. The other answer would be, so I'd never seen a Broadway show. It was the professional recording of Falsettos was going around in movie theaters. So this was my first. So I'd already seen like shows happening in like various theaters in Orlando, but like never like a traveling Broadway show or just a filming of a Broadway show. So this was, and I think it was in 2016 or 2017. this was like my first Broadway show that I saw, and I knew nothing about it. And I remember I was wearing waterproof mascara because they told me to. Though, because they told me, it's like, you're probably going to want to wear some of that if you're going to wear makeup to the show tonight.
They did you so dirty.
So, and they were right. I was openly sobbing like the entire second half when I realized what was happening, but I had no idea what I was walking into. So it was kind of just like a mind blower when I was watching first people just being gay in a musical and it being just a given fact, other than like a coming out story. Like Marvin is already out, Wizard's already out. The lesbians literally enter saying it's a lesbian from next door. I can send you guys the photo, but in the script it says doorbell enter lesbians, which I find absolutely hilarious. But it was just gay people being gay. Judaism, that really reflected how I felt about Judaism, because I was raised more Jewish than Jewish. So I think the song of Another Miracle from Judaism, in which Jason is singing to God saying, I don't hear your finger snapping, my father figure is dying, what can you do to stop that? And of course he still dies. And that it was just my first Broadway musical, and it just blew my mind when I was, I think, 15 or 16. So, and I'm probably going to listen to the original. It was just that this one, it just had so much more staying power. And also, Stephanie J. Block, she's a goddess. Zach, she's amazing. Her big song, I'm Breaking Down in Act 1, she finishes it with a half-eaten banana in her mouth, holding a knife, belting her lungs out.
Well, now I gotta watch it. I mean, now, I don't even need to, I can't listen to it, I have to watch it now, I mean.
I sent the link in our group chat, don't even worry about it, Zach.
Cool, nice.
I also have to note that I did see Stephanie J. Block as Elphaba in Wicked in 2000 whatever. My sister confirmed it last night because I was like, I think we saw it right after Idina Menzel like left the tour of it or whatever. And so I was like, I think it might have been Stephanie J. Block, and if it is, this is fantastic. This works perfectly.
Yeah,
and it did.
I love her. I also really like her song "Holding to the Ground" in Act 2 because it really encapsulates. And at least in Act 1, she's the only female character in Act 1, and in Act 2, there's the lesbians. But it really encapsulates her journey of like she didn't understand why her husband left her for a guy, and now her husband's guy friend is dying, and she's sad about it, even though she was raised. And I think she says, I was raised very middle class, very Jewish, and very straight. And now she's being encapsulated via her ex-husband into the LGBTQ world, and how she's accepting it, and how she's holding to the ground even though it keeps changing, and how her personal beliefs have to shift along with it. And I think it's a very nice, quiet character moment. And it's also backdropped by the set is made out of building blocks until that song, in which until like an actual hospital bed is rolled out, which is kind of like a, oh my goodness, this just got real moment. And it's like, we're no longer in falsetto land, where this is the real world and someone is dying. That's like that subtle character outfit, because we basically get like the reveal that Wizard is sick through racquetball, because they have a racquetball scene earlier and he's wearing very tight clothes, but then when he comes back for the second racquetball scene, he's wearing very loose clothes, which is subtle. And I also like the subtlety of when Wizard comes out after dying, he's wearing a white version of the shirt he wore in Act 1, which is like a light green shirt. I also like his style, which is the part that they harp on. It's like, he doesn't share my devotion to style, and he's wearing just a pale green shirt and khakis. It's very funny. This musical is surprisingly hilarious, while also being extremely tragic. And it's hard to pull off that balance, but I think they pull it off perfectly.
It is. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap it up by saying I love also that Keith Haring made the original logo for the show itself, which is really amazing. I saw that when I was like Wikipedia-ing, and I was like, that's so fun. But yeah, I think this is a good stopping point for this section. I thank you, Marcy, for opening my eyes, and hopefully Zach, you will get a chance to watch this.
It's been 6 months. You better
I think
do
you'll
it.
really like it. I think you'll really like it, Zach, if I'm going to be real honest with you.
And now you'll be ready. You'll be ready with the tissues.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Wait, did you cry, Hannah?
I was on the verge of tears. I was in my office today watching the last bit of it, and I was like making sure Adiel didn't see me shedding some tears at my desk.
You'd walk and be like, Hannah, what's wrong?
Yeah, Flunky, what's wrong?
Schimko, yeah.
Schimko. All right, so I guess that will segue into our next segment. We're going to be talking about Miss T Swift, Miss T Swizzle herself. As everybody may know, her masters were sold for $300 million to Shamrock Holding, which is like an investment firm, I read, after being held hostage by Scooter Braun, who bought out Taylor's old record label, Big Machine Records. This is old news. And although Shamrock now has control over, like, where her old masters could go, I get, like, commercially, Taylor still has writing masters, so she is now creating Taylor's versions
Of her first 6
and
albums.
re-releasing and re-records of all of her old records before what is it?
Before Lover.
Before
Lover
Lover.
was the first one she owns.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and
Yeah.
she's adding
on Republic, right?
Yeah,
I think she's on Republic now.
and she's adding songs that were originally going to be included in the original albums, but was talked out of it, where the record label said no. But I just think it's great that she's being able to own her own music and at the same time bankrupt evil men.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very girl boss.
Hashtag girl boss. So let's just talk about the Taylor part first. Why do you think she's releasing Fearless first? That's not the first in her catalog, but why do you think it's the first one out?
I will say I am a later Taylor Swift fan. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I enjoyed her radio hits, but I didn't like go out and like buy any of her albums. I didn't go out and listen to her albums. I think the first one I'm going to sit down and listen to it, and then I never finished it, was Reputation. But then, especially when Lover came out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and listen to it, and then I became a full-blown Swiftie when she released Folklore, and then I got extra excited over when Evermore was released. But I think she's starting with Fearless. One, because the song she released first was Love Story, and the lines start with, "We were both young when I first saw you," which connects to how she released that song when she was 19, and now she's 31. So the music video for the re-recording is a love letter to her fans, and it's showing old photos from when she was promoting the album with fans and old concert footage. But I also think that she's controlling her own narrative now with Fearless, and I think, and she wrote in her letter, like, this is when I came into who I was when writing this album and performing this album. So I think that's why she started with that one over Taylor Swift. Though I did see theories that she was going to start with the debut album, so that would be like 10 would be 01 and 11 would be 2. But I do think that it's also a way for her to wake up every day and choose chaos, so we don't know what next song is coming out anymore. Because if she were starting with Taylor Swift, we would automatically assume, okay, next will be Fearless, and then after that will be Red. If I have Speak Now before Red.
Yes.
But now we're fully in the element of surprise again, which I think really helped Folklore and Evermore when those came out. Even though now we know what to expect Fearless, but then it'll be a surprise for what we get next. And now even like what songs will be singles next. Because I think this also gives the opportunity for fan favorites from the original albums that were never singles to become singles now.
Mm-hmm. I've seen theories up the wazoo. There's like a whole like QAnon for Taylor Swift on TikTok. It's like insane. Zach, I see your face. it is like unreal, like the type of theories that these people come up with, and they're like connecting dates and connecting like all of these very intricate dots, and I'm honestly terrified by the Swifties, but I'm extremely excited for all of these re-recordings because I thought like the Love Story re-recording was amazing, out of this world. It was so raw. And like you could really feel like her growth as an artist, and like the change in her voice is just like, it's like she's not a little girl anymore. She is an adult, and she's ready for some business. Hashtag girl boss.
I also read that when you get into your 30s, that's when your voice has fully matured. So I think that's going to help enhance the original album, because I believe, just by the way, like the Love Story was redone, she's just going to do her original songs but better, and not going to do any massive changes, and to make her her original masters obsolete until she can own them. I know it'll happen. I see it in the stars that one day she will own her original masters, but I think that because she is in her full prime in her full vocal prime now, that all of the original music will sound better just by the fact that her voice has matured. Are you excited, Zach?
Here's my thing with Taylor Swift, right? Is that I have been following more so the record stuff rather than her personal career. Like, obviously, throughout the years, I've listened to some of her stuff. I think I listened to Folklore just because of how popular it was at the time, and I had to check it out, and it was pretty good. She's obviously not my cup of tea, but I'm more so happy that she's getting that creative freedom that you guys were talking about, because obviously that's been a topic of discussion in every single medium, whether it be movies, when directors kind of get their vision kind of, messed up with, and the same thing with music, obviously with Taylor Swift. So I'm willing to check it out solely because to support her coming out of this whole hostage situation. So hearing about it from you two, obviously, I mean, I'm not a Swiftie. I don't know if I'll ever become a Swiftie. I don't know, but I'm glad that she's finally getting that sort of stuff done, and hopefully, when is that coming out? These re-recordings and stuff.
April 9th.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If the
Yeah.
in the letter she capitalized certain words and it spelled out April 9th, so I'm 99% sure that is
Wow.
when.
Okay.
Once again, QAnon for Taylor Swift. But let's kind of get into the non-Taylor Swift part, more of a part that Zach could talk about, which is the ownership of masters and the ownership of like the artist's music. The industry is incredibly predatory towards these young artists that, they just want to break into the industry. They just want to get that record deal, but they end up being stuck in these contracts that asphyxiate them practically, and then never let them go. And then even when they are let go, they have no rights to the music that they created and that they could personally market off of them. It's all the label. Some other artists I wrote down that own their labels. We have Prince, Frank Ocean, Rihanna, and then I put one quote from Joni Mitchell from one of her Joni Mitchell anthology books. I'm obsessed. I'll show you my Joni Mitchell collection one day. But she credits her husband Chuck Mitchell with his persistence when they were together and she was starting her music career, that he wanted her to own her masters, and she to this day is very grateful to be able to own her music and market herself and profit off of herself. Do you guys have anything else that you want to say about the predatory music industry? Or hashtag girl boss?
It is predatory.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but pick up the similarities. If you guys remember, obviously it was a huge meme at the time, but that song Friday by Rebecca Black, I couldn't help but go back to that just because I'm forgetting the man's name, but there was these string of music videos not only involving Rebecca Black but these other teenage artists.
Jenna Rose, My Jeans.
Yeah, where this one man appears in every single music video, and people are like, who is this guy? It was actually the guy behind everything, but apparently the guy was not the nicest, obviously, because again, he would take advantage of these young teenage girls to get profit off of it and not even, supersede their careers, like it happened with Rebecca Black. And obviously she's recovering pretty well, so that's great to hear. But I can't help to pick up the similarities, and obviously we still live in that sort of world where like that happens in every single sort of medium, where like, the creative freedom is only brought up to only people that are like the top of the top, like you mentioned the names like Rihanna and just to name a few. So it's good. I'm surprised that Taylor Swift is finally getting that sort of creative freedom, and I'm hopefully it sets a precedent. But I hate to be the skepticist, but I just think that it's going to continue, and only like the bigger artists need to really put more of a put more accountability to people like that. So it's a good first step, obviously, for sure, but it definitely needs to be better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, I'd like to wish Swifties a very merry Kim Kardashian and Kanye West are divorcing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she officially put in those divorce papers. Kim Ye is no more.
Oh, man. I hate to say it, I can care less. No, but seriously, I was reading
the drama.
I was reading some, like, I think it was like an XXL headline or just one of those things that said that Kanye's not taking it well. I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
They doctored phone calls to make it look like Taylor Swift was a liar and got her canceled for no reason. They deserve everything bad happening to them. I'll come back to regret those words later. Maybe. Probably not. But I'm happy. I don't know why I'm happy over
that.
someone getting a divorce, but I hope their children are well. They probably don't deserve this, but good for her.
I agree.
I mean, look at Kanye. Agreed. Okay. Agreed.
This is Three Jews Make Fun of Kanye West.
We love this.
Oh, man.
This is iconic. Hashtag girl boss.
Hashtag girl boss.
Do the hashtag fingers, Zach. Come on.
Girl boss.
I'm going to make that the thumbnail.
Good.
All right. Now, Zach, would you like to introduce us to the woman, the myth, the legend, Wanda Maximoff?
Okay. So
Who's also Jewish in the comics.
Woo!
correct. I hate to spoil this past episode for Hannah, so but we're gonna be talking about it. Obviously, the new episode 7 of WandaVision came out literally today, and pretty much the reports came out that this was the start of the cinematic sort of ending. These last 3 episodes for WandaVision, and they're gonna be an hour long. This was not an hour long. This was just, I think, about like 38 minutes. But obviously, coming off of the last episode, where pretty much Miss Maximoff pretty much expanded the hex to where, like, just, getting people back into there. So I had a couple talking points because, listen, I am a criticizer of the MCU and just Marvel in general. Marcy knows more than anybody else, probably.
We've had enough arguments about the ending of Man of Steel.
Brilliant
to make
movie,
a
by the
whole
way.
Other context. It is not.
Brilliant movie. But we
Nope.
get back to WandaVision. That's, Marcy said that it was a game-changing episode. And I'll give you my thoughts a little bit later. But Marcy, I take the floor on why you think this was a game-changing episode.
Well, first, to spoil the one thing, Hannah, it is Agatha Harkness.
Oh my god! Ah! Sorry.
Yeah.
I knew it!
It confirmed.
I was literally going to say it.
And she has an entire villain theme song about how, and it's called "It Was Agatha All Along." And they show us scenes from earlier with her using her magic to mess up everything. And
Oh my
it
God.
was, and there was another thing I wrote down, but that was a proper plot twist. Yes, the entire internet was like, that must be Agatha Harkness, like the whole time, but they didn't try to make it seem like, oh no, it wasn't, or oh, that wasn't what we were going for, but they just confirmed it, and it was still a plot twist in the best way. Especially because we have, like, everyone had, like, their suspicions, like, Agnes is Agatha Harkness, but the confirmation of it garnered that reaction out of Hannah. So, and it was just beautiful, and especially doing the villain theme song was fantastic, and I want that to happen in every single MCU movie going forward, if we're allowed to have funny, Zach is face palming, but if we're allowed to have quippy funny heroes, I want quippy funny villains. That is where Batman gets its strength, because he has ridiculous villains, but he's also a ridiculous hero. But it was just beautiful to watch unfold. And especially, I think the actress, she's been having fun the whole season. I could just tell from just like her energy coming off the screen how much fun she was having. And I'm just so excited to see. One, I want a good female villain. We don't get those often. And especially female villains that have fun. Like, if you guys have watched The Umbrella Academy, I feel like only the Handler gets to have like a bit of fun. But like Cha-Cha, she's just stone cold, and there's not even a chance for her to like even get a redemption arc, which a lot of male villains have. But in this one, she writes evil every day on her calendar, and she's having fun. And I am so excited to see where, that's my cup of tea. You write evil every day. It's the Dr. Doofenshmirtz villain.
Hashtag girl boss.
Yes, she's a hashtag girl boss.
Yeah, listen.
Especially the relationship between her and Wanda at this point, and especially what turn is it going to take? We don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the show, is that to me, like, sorry to plug my University Press review of the first couple episodes, but I pretty much said in that review saying that, the MCU is at a stage right now where they could be creative with their projects, which I feel like in the past they've been playing it very safe. I've always described it that it's like an assembly line. They just do it formulaic movies kind of time and time again. But WandaVision has been a nice breath of fresh air into the MCU, especially with what's going on. And I'm so happy that Elizabeth Olsen is finally getting some shine, because usually in these past movies, she's just very underutilized. And it's very frustrating to see. But she is shining in this episode. And the whole series. I'm not even going to mention her in the old Scarlet Witch costume. These two know already how I feel about that. No, but she's brilliant, and Paul Bettany as Vision is great as well. But again, it's that hard, and the fan theories were up the wazoo going into this episode, saying, who's behind this? Is it just because she's grieving over Vision? She created this whole thing. Who is the big bad behind this? And to me, when Catherine Hahn got casted into the show, and when I first heard that news, I was saying to myself, she's going to play a big role. And this pretty much confirmed it. I was laughing the whole way through that villain theme song at the end. It was great.
And I killed Sparky, too.
Yeah, but
she says that.
From what I'm seeing, though, and again, I kind of put this a little bit later, like, what do I think it's game-changing? I don't know.
I said that more of like as a game-changer episode of the series.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
And like, I think the whole series itself is definitely a game-changing to like what the MCU is doing. But, like, we've never seen anything like this before, even coming out of the MCU, or just what it's garnering out of the audience. Especially, like, Hannah, you talked about, like, the theories up the wazoo. So many theories. But I feel like this episode was the turning point to the, going from... Because we had those hints in, I think, like, episode 4, when they took us out of the Hex and to, like, what was happening in the real world. But this, I think, is, like, the big twist that is going to make people are upset after last week's episodes. They felt like it was too short, and where they didn't give us enough. But this one they gave us just enough, so now we cannot wait until next week. And especially I want to see where they're going to take the twins, because I looked up like what the twins were doing in the comics, and Wiccan, who I'm pretty sure is Billy, he is part of the LGBTQ community. So, are we going to have our first LGBTQ hero? Because there is the new Avengers, in which Tommy and Billy are in the comic books. So therefore, are we going to get our first LGBTQ hero? So that's what makes me very curious about the twins themselves. And the whole theory is that the twins are the first mutants in this world, because the MCU does not have mutants yet. And I think this episode confirmed one of my theories that I had told you, Zach, that it isn't actually Peter Maximoff from the X-Men movies. It was just that now we know that Agatha, she saw that, this guy in a different universe, Peter Maximoff looks like this. So that'll severely confuse her. And that they're just using the likeness, and of course for the audience, we know that, like, that's the same actor. So I think that's what, and it was more of like a wink to the audience that they have Evan Peters back, but I don't think that's actually Peter Maximoff from the X-Men movies. It was more of a wink to the audience.
You know, here's why I hope that's wrong. It's just because Marvel, they said in the second Doctor Strange movie that Wanda Maximoff's actually going to be in, that they're going to be expanding this multiverse. That there's other universes out there that could be taking these characters. So I'm hoping that it is. I'm hoping that, you know, Agatha Harkness did take the Quicksilver from that universe, put him in here, so that, you know, because obviously the other one's dead there. But there was also a post-credit scene in this episode, the first one in the series. A quick little thing, but it was Monica Rambeau who got her powers. Good stuff.
She got her powers! She's Photon!
Good stuff. She kind of opened up the basement and saw kind of like the underworlds of kind of like what Agatha Harkness is doing. And who pops up behind her? It's actually Quicksilver. What did he say? Like Snooper's gonna snoop? Something like that.
Yeah. Something like that.
So he's maybe, you know, with Harkness, we'll see. But the show was heading in a really good direction.
It did show that she was manipulating him.
Yeah. Exactly.
In the song, and that he had because her magic is purple, so he had like the purple sparks coming off of him.
So I gotta say something real quick about that, because not even that, because again the fan theories, because Monica Rambeau once mentioned like an aerospace engineer that would have a lot of fun or something that's coming to the show and stuff. And people were saying, oh my god, we're going to see Reed Richards, we're going to see all these awesome characters, Galactus is going to be in here, and then Agatha Harkness gets revealed, and then people are just going to be like, oh, disappointing. Like, you disappointed yourself. Like, let's be real here.
I didn't see it as, like, Reed Richards was going to show up. I felt like that was just, I think the woman that brings, like, the little truck that they try to send Monica Rambeau into it with, I feel like that was just like an aerospace engineer, and maybe it's another Marvel character we just haven't met yet. But that didn't even like stick as like a thing in my head. It just went understood.
Yeah, again, like to me, I'm not listen. Having your expectations that high that a member, like, by the way, I do not believe that Reed Richards is out there. We've watched 27 movies in this whole universe, 6 shows and stuff like that, and then now he was like, oh, by the way, I'm here. I can stretch far. No, of course not. Of course not. But the show has been just great. I thought this episode ended very quickly. I was just like, oh, it's over, and then there was, you know, a good thing to end on, the theme song, which is in my head every single moment. You know, when you guys are talking.
They better release it. It will get so many views on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your music. Oh,
they have to. Hannah, I want to ask you a question, because I know you haven't seen this last episode. But as the show as a whole, what's your thoughts?
Okay, so I'm not very into Marvel, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like, I know, like, all of the stuff, like, that's kind of going on because Dakota makes me watch those, like, YouTube summaries. Oh. He's like, wait, this will explain it to you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, my God. Okay, fine. So I'm very much aware of, like, what's going on and, like, all the crossovers and, like, everything that's going on and crazy and, like, the comic book, like, original whole story. So I'm very much aware of that. But I am obsessed. Like, I became obsessed with this show, like, even before I knew everything, like, all of that stuff, because I just think it's so well written. And, like, to the research that they did to get these decades down of sitcoms is just amazing. Like, I found myself so intrigued by, like, even a bowl on a table, you're like, yeah, that's from the 70s. That's very accurate. Like, it's insane to me. And honestly, you could probably tell from my tweets, like, when I watch them, you both see them, when I'm just yelling Two Broke Girls and, like, Danny Chung from Veep. Like, because honestly, I don't really know who they are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I just know that I love them. And then obviously my if Wanda bad, why MILF type attitude that I kind of have going in. But I really love this show. I think it's just like, it's such a good outreach to maybe people that aren't that into Marvel, because it's just so accessible as a precursor to the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, maybe people that watch it will go back and watch all of the movies and TV shows.
What happened, Marcy?
I did not say that. My nose did that, okay? Ma'am.
Yeah, I remember my mom called me. I think it was after the 3rd episode came out, because I hadn't watched any of them yet. And she was like, Marcy, you have to watch this. Specifically talking about like the homages to like the 50s and 60s, because she's like this is the Honeymooners which was a show that she watched as a kid. She's like you have to watch this because it's exactly like the shows that I watched as a kid, and the attention to detail is so great. And she's a professional stage manager, so I can send it to you guys. But she had on one of her stage management Facebook groups, someone had sent the lighting plot for the 50s house set in WandaVision, and it was very interesting to see how they like placed the lights, and especially it was an actual professional document to see how they placed the lights. But the attention to detail even there was insane. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it was definitely I definitely agree, because I didn't start watching it until the 3rd episode came out, because we know that they started with 2 and then they went then the 1 a week. I think they should have released all 3, because that definitely hooked me in, and I'm not sure if I would have been as hooked in if I'd only just watched the first 2. But I could definitely see what they were going for, and I do think the weird Modern Family thing they did this episode, it was weird. And it was weird how familiar it was, because at least with like the first 3 episodes, those are specifically for an era that at least people our age we don't understand, because we didn't live there for, and that's why it was more exciting to my mom that it was the 50s than it was for me. But in this episode, it really ramped up the weirdness, and I like how they started old when it was still like a sitcom show, and then as we've become more modern, it's gotten a lot weirder. But I think that's because that we understand those tropes a lot better. So of course it's going to seem extra weird, and especially the voice that we now know that was Agatha. But there's a voice that talks to Wanda as she's talking to the camera in the a la Modern Family thing. She's like, "Wait, you're not supposed to speak.
Yeah.
Why are you speaking?" And then in the song, he goes, "It was Agatha." And she has a little director's chair that says Agatha on it. But also, where has she been? Did she just happen to be in Westview and go, "Hey, here's an opportunity," when Wanda hexed it?
You know, here's my thing, right? Is because this character goes back a long way. I mean, I think the story still remains, unless this continuity is different, right? That like she was one of the original witches in the Salem witch trial, so she goes far back, and she trained Wanda Maximoff in some other stories as well. So maybe it's hard to tell. It's because maybe this is a person that's been looking upon Wanda Maximoff throughout her life and found kind of the right moment to kind of manipulate her, make her do all this sort of stuff. So to me, it's definitely very interesting to see where they go with this show. And again, the binge model has been overtaking people's kind of thoughts about this show. I saw this, I think it was like an IndieWire article that said like, the show kind of drags on every episode. We don't get a lot in each episode. I'm just like, that just sounds like a regular TV show, man. Like, I feel like, again, we're so used to binging like 10 episodes at a time that, again, I've known some people that watch the first 2 episodes and say like, what is this? This is just a sitcom. Of course it is. It's part of the thing. I don't know. But it's a good show, and where it ranks among just superhero comic book shows in general, it's pretty high in my opinion. I still think that Daredevil show that they released on Netflix a while back is number 1 probably for me still. But this show's high up there. Wait, say it again.
Gotham.
I like Listen, you know me. I'm the DC guy. I love Gotham. I think it's great.
I love Gotham. I know a lot of people don't like it. I love Gotham, though. I think just by sheer production and like planning alone, the show is absolutely going to beat Gotham. But Gotham was like the perfect twist of ridiculousness. They brought back a character to life twice. You can't.
Yeah.
In the span of like 2 weeks, Gotham was insane. But I do think that this show, like just by story and plot, and definitely giving Elizabeth Olsen the center of it to her, because I think there was like an interview that was resurfacing of like her when she was first cast in Age of Ultron, and she's like, the series I'd like to do would be based off the House of M, and a lot of theories is that, and I think the show is partially based off of House of M, the comic book series, but she's getting what she wants, and she's clearly having. Yes, she's not having as much fun as probably as the Catherine Hahn is playing a ridiculous character, but she is. I think she's really enjoying what she's doing, That's all I really want when I'm watching shows, is I want to watch the actors have fun and enjoy what they're doing. And I think that with some new movies, and even like if you watch like really old movies where you know like the business practices that were happening behind them, and it's like, and this can also tie back with the whole like artists owning their own masters. It's like, you want people to have fun while they're making stuff, and if the entire time like Taylor Swift had like, especially with Fearless, that she's releasing 6 whole songs that weren't on the original album, like that's not fair to the artist. And that's why I think just did the actor have fun is like a very important question for when we're critiquing any sort of media. Was it fun for them? Because if it wasn't fun for them, then it can't be like entertaining for us. Because we're just going to be able to see, especially in like live theater, it's like we want to watch the actors' characters enjoy them. We want to watch the actors enjoy themselves while they're acting. Because it's a miserable performance if the actor is miserable. Though, of course, if they're doing their job right, you will know. Yeah, and that's just my 2 cents on having fun while you're making art.
No.
I love that. I agree.
I mean, listen, I agree as well, and obviously, hopefully more sets will be like that. Again, all these media industries they always have those sort of practices that should not be done, and obviously it seems like Marvel is kind of getting back to that path where, like, now you can do the creativity, it will be more fun for them. Again, Olsen is having, this is her best performance in the character by far ever. Absolutely. And obviously even Paul Bettany has Vision too, man. He's doing a lot more than he has been doing in the movies, because again, even though he's technically a robot, he's having a very human performance in this show. That again, the chemistry between those two is great, and obviously it's great seeing Evan Peters back as Quicksilver. He's great, but yeah, I mean,
is he Quicksilver?
I mean, I think he is. I hope he is. He runs fast, that's for sure. I mean, that should be a clue.
Then, if he runs fast as the benchmark, that would make the Flash Quicksilver as well.
Well, the Flash is better than Quicksilver, but I'm not even gonna. That should not even be
the drama.
Not even be a debate, but we move on. Wow, look at Marcy. I just flustered Marcy.
Tommy is the best Quicksilver. He's better than the Flash.
Who?
Only at 3 days old,
oh.
he could beat the Flash in a fight.
I'm not even gonna get into this. If you want this episode to be 5 hours long, then we can talk. But no, but again, for me, the show's been great, and I'm just hoping that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the MCU show, kind of afterwards is much better. But Disney Plus has been killing it lately. So, and I hate to say it because I hate Disney, but they've been killing it.
Hot take. I mean, you've heard it. Regina Holloway and JP Acosta, people that we know, they probably hate my guts listening to this, but I don't care.
I love that.
Who's gonna write Thanos a theme song? Because all villains need theme songs now.
I don't know. This is what I'm saying. Okay, I had to turn my light on because it was getting dark. That they should stick with the villains getting their own score. You know, like obviously all the major villains in every single superhero movie have the great score by Hans Zimmer, by Alan Silvestri, whoever we want to name. That's why this was different, and hearing a whole theme song for her at the end was absolutely great. And I'm just listen, the shenanigans that she's gonna go through. I'm just interested to see how this is gonna have a resolution to this. I'm trying to think of I'm trying to like speculate in my head, but I kind of don't want to. I kind of want to save it for the stuff like that. And Paul Bettany said that there's one more person that's going to appear on the show that is going to blow our minds away. I don't know what it's going to be, but
do we think it's Mephisto? Because I'm leaning toward no.
Everybody's been saying that. I'm just hoping it's not, so that people can cry about it, if I'm being real. But
Zach lives for the drama.
Oh yeah. But I don't know. He said that the actor he's been wanting to work with for a while, so maybe that's a hint. I have no clue what actor he's been wanting to work with, but
yeah, if you just like business practice wise, and I think this is in like a film theory done by Matt Pat on YouTube, that they're not going to do Mephisto because they want to keep marketing toward China, and China does not like depictions of Satan.
I have a theory. Maybe this actor can either be Ian McKellen or Michael Fassbender, the character they both played, Magneto, which is obviously Wanda's father. Well, not in this MC universe, I don't know, but if they want to do this multiverse stuff, I think this would be a great way to do it, and I love both those actors, and that'll be great to see. But I think we could. I mean, any last words from any of you to wrap this up?
I can't wait to watch the episode.
By the way,
now.
I'm sorry. I mean, you have to just hear every
so
spoiler
sorry.
and
It's
stuff.
okay.
I mean,
It's okay. I literally did not watch it because I give Dakota so much flack for watching it, like, without me. Because the thing is, he'll be like, yeah, I watched it, but then we'll watch it again together. And I'm like, I want to be surprised with you. But I'm not going to tell him that you spoiled it for me. I'll be like, he'll be like, how was the podcast? He'll be like, great. What'd you talk about? Nothing. Nothing at all.
We talked about Taylor Swift and 3 Jews.
there we go.
Yeah.
4 Jews. 5. Technically, 5.
There we go.
We count Trina in it. Oh, was March of the Falsettos, like, crazy when you watched it?
Yes. Oh my God, I loved it. I loved that part so much.
There's a part. It's a song in between Trina's song, in which she's singing about how she doesn't sing about how she hates men, but how, like, men are the bane of her existence. And then and then it interrupts her by all 4 male characters coming out in little kid out costumes with hats that with little twirly things and complete backlight, and they all sing in the highest pitched voice they can muster, and it is terrifying.
I loved it. I loved every
Especially,
second
I think
of
there
it.
was a video that I watched, and it was just like every time they named the title of the song in the song, and it was just literally like a increasing intensity of March of the Falsettos, March of the Falsettos, March of the Falsettos.
Mortifying.
Yeah. But it was terrifying. And then Trina comes back and is like, "Excuse me." Yeah, Hannah, go watch WandaVision. Zach, watch the Falsettos now. And I'll find something else. I'll listen to the original.
Look up your Taylor Swift theories on TikTok.
Not the QAnon ones, but
the QAnon Taylor Swift.
oh boy.
We're almost getting to Five Nights at Freddy's level of
Yeah.
conspiracy.
Yeah.
Didn't brighten the image of the announcement yet. Have we done that?
Oh my God, Hannah, why did you do that? Oh my God.
I had
Oh my
to.
God. Oh man.
All right, I guess that's a good wrapping up point.
Yeah.
Woo, we've been going for a while.
I'll try to edit it down. So I think
Okay.
everything in here was golden content that should never be removed. So I'm Marcy Wilder. I'm the web editor. You can find me on Twitter at Marcy J Wilder, and also in articles on the University Press and in our newsletter.
I'm Hannah Schimko, station manager for FAU Owl Radio. Jeez, it's getting late. You can find me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, both Hannah Schimko. And I also have a show on Owl Radio every Friday, 3 to 4 p.m.
My name is Zachary Weinberger. I'm a staff writer for the University Press. My Twitter's at Zach Weinberger, Zach with an H, Weinberger. I have a lot of podcasts and a lot of writing gigs as well, so you can just find myself there. Got a freelancing gig for The Forward. We talk about Jewish people. Hey, listen, The Forward, Jewish publication, I'm freelancing there, so check out my stuff. But yeah, and that's it for me. So again, University Press, I do write the reviews also for Marcy's newsletter, which has been awesome every couple weeks. So definitely check out that.
Yes. Oh, and
Thanks,
today,
everyone.
when this airs on Owl Radio, our first online print issue for the University Press will be out.
Nice.
Yeah, we did it. But that'll be all from us, and we will see you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye!